Welcome to Realizing Real Estate. Each week we will be issuing a new edition, an interview with an investor, developer, business leader, government official, scholars, and others, all who in some way impact the world of real estate and the quality of your investment. Real estate has many facets. We will explore many of them in these brief podcasts. Every one of our guests will be interviewed in greater depth and length on our weekly radio show, Our House, which is broadcast every Saturday at 9 a.m. on WBN 9:30 a.m. and 98.5 FM HD3 in the Buffalo Niagara Marketplace, but is accessible anywhere in the world on the Odyssey app or at WBN.com. All of Realizing Real Estate podcasts are available at the iTunes Store, and our House radio shows are archived on our blog at huntrealestate.com. Join us every week and give us your feedback and suggestions for future topics, also at huntrealestate.com. Welcome to Realizing Real Estate. This is Peter Hunt, and this is a regular weekly episode of our broadcast that's designed to help you protect and enhance your investment in real estate. And to help me with that today is Rebecca Gandour, the Executive Vice President of the Buffalo Urban Development Corporation. Good morning.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here.
It's good to have you here. Your project, the main project you've been working on, that's kind of been consuming for 6, 7, 8 years, is the Northland Corridor redevelopment project. Describe that project and then describe what the future looks like a little bit.
Sure. So the Northland campus is located east of Main Street. We're near Delavan, Grider, Fillmore, and then obviously Northland. So we have a wonderful building stock.
How big an area is that, acreage-wise? Do you know?
So we're probably about, I would say, anywhere between 15 to 17 and a half acres, depending on if you're including public right-of-way or not. We have some large buildings. 683 is a behemoth of square footage where the Workforce Training Center is located. And then we have some smaller parcels that'll be part of our phase 3 work, the work that we're doing right now, that'll be anywhere between 40,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet. 631 Northland will be 44,000 square feet. So it just depends. We have a space and a home for any business that's looking to locate along the corridor.
So how are you funded? How does this get done?
So the Buffalo Urban Development Corporation has a couple funding sources. One is our traditional model is we would go out, we would purchase property, we would go through, remediate it, maybe put some additional infrastructure in. So that's what you see at Buffalo Lakeside Commerce Park. And then once the private sector would come in, they would purchase the real estate, and that would provide us the seed funding for our organization and for the next project.
But somebody had to start the first project. How did that get paid?
That was 40 years ago and before my time. The other financial model that we have is like with Ralph Wilson Park, we have a funder that is looking for us to do project administration. So they cover our staff and our overhead costs so that we can provide that project management to the project. So we have a number of funding sources, or hopefully for phase 3 work, we can take a developer fee for the projects that we're now holding. And that could be for various purposes. One is with like 683 Northland, we have tax credits there. So Budsy will be the property owner for a period of time. Same for some of the other properties, or if the opportunity presents itself for us to sell off any of the property along Northland. Again, that would be a strategic decision.
How does an idea start? I mean, this Northland, there was a old manufacturing facility there. Munchauer family, I believe, owned that and operated that, and then
they didn't.
Then they didn't, and so the building sat there?
The building sat there. It created an opportunity for an organization like Budsy to come in and either reduce the environmental hazards that what manufacturing was back in the day. If it was oil, lubrication, stuff like that, that can go into the flooring. So for us to come in, utilize our opportunity to go after funding from the Department of the DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, and bring those resources into a building to make sure it's safe and development ready. So that's where Budsy is really interesting with being a nonprofit. It creates an opportunity for us to go after grant funding. We can also work with our municipal partners for them to provide any of their financial resources into a project. So we have that unique ability to really pull funding from a bunch of different places and then deploy that back out into, if it's building a building, remediating a vacant lot, working with the city on infrastructure in the right of way.
Is there some kind of think tank though? You sitting around talking to people and is there a big map of the city someplace that you're looking at and saying, that's where we got to go next, or here? It's been 40 years, right?
It's been 40 years. So we work with the
mayor. Or is
mayor.
it just as things happen?
It's a little bit of both, right? So we work closely with the mayor's office of strategic planning. So they're really that think tank that is looking at that map of the city to see where they see their different organizations. So Budsy being one of them with their development agency, where we can come in and work with them on their strategic vision. And that's obviously within the mayor's office. So we get our leadership from the city of Buffalo. But then there's opportunities that come around that we may see just generally in building stock. Like when you're driving around the city of Buffalo and you see that dilapidated building and you're like, what are we going to do with that? Who can do that? That's what our organization does. We're built to take on that risk that the private sector may not be ready for. We're that intermediary that can take that on and hopefully create value and reduce blight in neighborhoods. So it's a push and pull. We do it all.
When you talk about not being ready, one of the things that's happening now across the country, developers put the brakes on lots of projects because there's the promise of interest rates coming down, and construction funding is difficult today, and lenders don't want to take the kind of risks that they would normally take. Are you seeing the risk being even greater now for what you're doing? I mean, because somebody has to then occupy these buildings, and if companies are kind of putting the brakes on too because of the risk involved in continuing to invest in their operations. Does that affect you too?
It can. We obviously, I think our biggest risk right now is construction cost. We're seeing that at Ralph Wilson Park. We're seeing that as we go out and bid phase 3 and phase 4, that cost of construction is higher than even when we had really great estimates. As we're putting our projects together, things are coming in higher. And so how do you offset those costs? Are you doing value engineering? Are you having to go back out for more money? That's probably our biggest risk. We're hoping that with our construction timelines between 12 and 18 months, some of that risk will be mitigated by the time that we're going out to look at a tenant. Now that the presidential election has been decided, I think that was something too that was playing a role in the business community as far as just a point of time. So we're hopeful that helps bring a little bit more certainty to the market. And again, as we're building out our financial models, if Budsy has to hold that property a little bit longer, we're making sure that we're working through our budgets that can happen. I think we want to make sure that the tenant is right, that it has the synergy in the corridor to take advantage of the Workforce Training Center, Buffalo Manufacturing Works, that it's a good fit, as opposed to just having to make a knee-jerk because we've run out of time and having to take a bad deal.
Well, sure. And then there's the sustainability of the business itself.
Correct.
Does it have a future, for example? And I think a lot of times when new businesses or young businesses see something like this, they think, well, there's a deal for me. I'm going to get in there. I'll get in cheap, and I can put some of the respect to them, and I'll just, if business doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Yeah, and what I hope
I'm being cynical.
No. I think it's an interesting point that you're bringing up, though, because I think at times Buffalo gets really nervous about failure. Right. And so we don't want those that, just have a bad idea and they're bad actors. But I don't think Buffalo can be scared to take risk. And that's where 43 North and other places that you're starting to see the entrepreneurial community start to happen is I don't think we can become cynical that we don't support that startup and entrepreneurial spirit. And so if Budsy can take a tenant that may not necessarily, check all the boxes, but that we can be, if they are in the advanced manufacturing sector or the energy sector or have a strong connection to the Workforce Training Center, that we can cultivate those businesses. so that not everything's going to work out, but I really don't want to see our area become immune to taking risk. That I think there has to be a little bit of an understanding that not everything is successful, but sometimes it's still worth trying something.
And I think we're doing a pretty good job of that in this community. Startup New York, 43 North. There's projects going on here. Launch New York.
Yes. Marnie does a great job.
There's great organizations and people working on this, giving people that chance where it might be a risk. We've got to go. Rebecca Gandour, Executive Director, Vice President of Buffalo Urban Development Corporation. Thanks very much for being with us today.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure to be here with you.
And we'll be back again with another episode of Realizing Real Estate in 1 week. Thank you very much.